Nathan Howard knelt beside the hospital bed, gripping his 12-year-old son's hand like it was the only thing keeping him from falling through the floor. His son was breathing. Barely. And the woman who'd promised to protect him, the woman Nathan married, trusted, left alone with his child, had just been removed from the building in handcuffs. How does a billionaire miss something like this? How does a father watch his world collapse in the time it takes to open a door? Before we dive in, don't just watch, please hit the subscribe button. I'm still fighting my way to our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single click truly keeps this channel alive. And tell me in the comment where in the world you are watching from. Your support inspires us to keep creating more emotional stories of resilience, healing and kindness. Nathan Howard wasn't supposed to be a father. Not according to the business magazines that called him Boston's most eligible bachelor throughout his 30s. Not according to the investors who wanted him married to the company, not a person. But at 42, standing in a Massachusetts Department of Children and Families office on a Tuesday morning he'd almost canceled 3 times, Nathan met a boy who changed everything. Dennis was 12. Small for his age. Quiet in the way kids get when they've learned that speaking up costs more than staying silent. He sat in a plastic chair, hands folded in his lap, wearing a Red Sox t-shirt 2 sizes too big. His caseworker was explaining his medical history, sickle cell disease, frequent hospital visits, specialized care requirements, and Nathan watched the boy's face remain perfectly still. Like he'd heard this speech before. Like he knew what came next. Most people walked away after hearing chronic illness. Nathan had sat through enough adoption orientations to recognize the pattern. Families wanted healthy kids. Easy kids. Kids who didn't come with complications. But when Dennis finally looked up and met Nathan's eyes, something shifted. The boy didn't smile. Didn't perform. Just watched Nathan with this careful, measuring look that said, "You're going to leave too, aren't you?" Nathan didn't leave. 3 months later, Dennis moved into the restored Colonial in Lexington with the wraparound porch and the yard big enough for a dog they'd get eventually. Nathan converted the 3rd bedroom into Dennis's space, let the kid pick the paint color, the furniture, everything. Dennis chose blue. Not bright blue. The kind of blue you see right before the sun comes up. It's the color things turn when they're about to get better, Dennis said. Nathan had to step out of the room for a minute after that. Joyce came into their lives 6 months later. She was everything Nathan thought he needed. Elegant. Well-educated. From a family that summered on the Cape and knew which fork to use at fundraising dinners. She worked in non-profit development, said all the right things about giving back, about making a difference. When Nathan introduced her to Dennis, she smiled warmly and told the boy how lucky he was. Dennis smiled back. Nathan missed the fact that the smile never reached his eyes. They married in a small ceremony at the Seaport Hotel. Dennis was the ring bearer. He stood perfectly still during the vows, hands clasped, watching his father promise forever to someone he'd known less than a year. Afterward, at the reception, Joyce danced with Dennis while photographers captured the moment. The Boston Globe ran a photo the next day, Tech Billionaire's New Beginning. Everyone said they looked like the perfect family. And for a while, Nathan believed it. Joyce threw herself into the role of mother with the same energy she brought to charity galas. She learned Dennis's medication schedule, attended his doctor appointments, volunteered to coordinate his care. "I'm his mother," she'd say, hand pressed to her chest whenever anyone offered to help. "This is what mothers do." Nathan would watch her organize pill bottles, update medical charts, speak to specialists on the phone, and feel this deep sense of relief. He'd been so worried about balancing everything, the company, Dennis's needs, being present. But now he had a partner. Now Dennis had a mother. Nathan started traveling again for work. Board meetings in New York. Investor conferences in San Francisco. A renewable energy summit in Austin that turned into a 3-day trip. Each time he left, Joyce reassured him. "We'll be fine," she'd say, kissing his cheek at the door. Dennis and I have our routine. And Dennis never complained. Never called Nathan crying. Never asked him to come home early. He'd get on FaceTime and tell his dad about school, about the book he was reading, about nothing important. His smile was small but steady. Nathan thought that meant his son was happy. He didn't recognize it as the smile of a child who'd learned not to make waves. The morning Nathan left for New York, the morning everything ended, he stopped by Dennis's room before heading to Logan Airport. Dennis was still asleep, curled on his side, one hand tucked under his pillow. Nathan stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching his son breathe. He's okay, Nathan told himself. He's safe. He texted Joyce from the car, take care of our boy. She responded immediately, always do. Red heart. Nathan boarded the plane believing that was true. Believing his family was solid. That the hardest part, finding each other, was over. He had no idea that Dennis had been trying to tell him the truth for months. No idea that the quiet compliance he mistook for contentment was actually fear. No idea that the person he trusted most in the world had been hurting his son in ways that left no visible bruises. And he definitely had no idea that in less than 48 hours, he'd be kneeling beside a hospital bed, watching his 12-year-old son struggle to breathe, while the woman he married was escorted out in handcuffs. Some betrayals announce themselves. Others wear your wife's face and wait until you're not looking. Have you ever had a moment where your gut screamed that something was wrong, even though everything looked fine on the surface? Drop your thoughts below. Sometimes our instincts know what our minds refuse to see. The conference room on the 42nd floor of the Rockefeller Center had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Manhattan like the city was something you could own if you just climbed high enough. Nathan sat at the head of a marble table, surrounded by lawyers and investors, about to sign a deal that would push Howard Dynamics into territory most clean energy companies only dreamed about. $400 million. 3 new solar farms across Texas. Partnerships with state governments that had spent decades fighting renewable energy. This was the signature that validated everything Nathan had built. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. The lead investor from Goldman Sachs was mid-sentence, explaining the rollout timeline, and Nathan had learned early in his career that checking your phone during closing remarks was how you lost respect in rooms like this. The phone buzzed again. Nathan glanced down. Massachusetts General Hospital. His stomach dropped before his brain caught up. Hospitals didn't call billionaires directly unless something had gone very, very wrong. Excuse me, Nathan said, standing. I need to take this. The investor paused mid-word, annoyance flickering across his face, but Nathan was already moving toward the hallway. He answered on the 4th ring. Mr. Howard? The voice was female, clipped, professional. A nurse, probably. This is Mass General. We have Dennis Howard here. I know he's there, Nathan said. Dennis had been admitted 2 days ago for a routine pain crisis, something they'd managed dozens of times before. Joyce is with him. Is everything? Mr. Howard, Dennis has taken a sudden turn. You should come now. Nathan stopped walking. What kind of turn? I can't discuss details over the phone. But you need to come back to Boston. Today. There was something in her voice. Not panic, nurses didn't panic. But something else. Something that made Nathan's chest tighten. Is my wife there? Nathan asked. A pause. Too long. She's here, yes. Put her on. Mr. Howard, I really think. Put her on. Another pause. Then, she's unavailable right now. Please, just come. The line went dead. Nathan stood in the hallway outside the conference room, staring at his phone, trying to make sense of what unavailable meant. Joyce lived at the hospital when Dennis was admitted. She never left his side. That was the whole point. Nathan traveled, Joyce stayed. That was their arrangement. That was how they made it work. So why wasn't she answering? Nathan walked back into the conference room. 10 faces turned toward him. "I have to leave," he said. The Goldman Sachs investor frowned. "We're 5 minutes from signing." "Then sign without me. My attorney has full authority." "Nathan, this is a $400 million. I know what it is." Nathan grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair and headed for the door. Behind him, someone muttered something about priorities, but Nathan didn't slow down. He'd spent 12 years building Howard Dynamics from a garage startup into a company that moved markets. He'd spent 3 years building a family. One of those things could wait. The flight from LaGuardia to Logan took 53 minutes. It felt like 6 hours. Nathan sat in first class, staring out the window, running through every conversation he'd had with Joyce over the past 48 hours. Nothing unusual. She'd texted updates, Dennis resting. Pain levels manageable. Doctors happy with progress. She'd sent a photo yesterday, Dennis asleep in the hospital bed, oxygen tube in his nose, looking small and peaceful. Everything normal. So what changed? Nathan pulled up his messages and scrolled back further. Past this week. Past last month. Looking for what, exactly? He didn't know. But the nurse's voice kept looping in his head, "You should come now. Not when you can. Not if you get a chance. Now." The plane landed at 3:47 p.m. Nathan didn't wait for his luggage. He walked straight out of the terminal and into the first cab he saw. "Mass General," he said. "Fast as you can." The driver, a guy in his 60s with a Bruins cap, glanced in the rearview mirror. "Emergency?" "Yeah." The driver nodded and pulled into traffic. Boston rolled past the windows. Gray sky. Gray streets. Late October pressing down on the city like something heavy you couldn't name. Nathan tried calling Joyce. Straight to voicemail. He tried texting, "I'm on my way." What happened? The message delivered but never turned blue. She wasn't reading them. Nathan's phone buzzed. A text from his assistant, "Investors want to know if you're coming back to NYC." He didn't respond. The cab cut across the Longfellow Bridge, and Nathan stared at the Charles River below, dark and still, reflecting nothing. His instincts were screaming. Something was wrong. Not just Dennis's sick wrong. Something else. The cab pulled up to the hospital entrance at 4:23 p.m. Nathan threw $200 bills at the driver and didn't wait for change. He pushed through the main entrance, past the information desk, past the elevators where normal people waited patiently. He took the stairs. His legs burned by the 3rd floor, but he didn't slow down. The pediatric wing was at the end of the east corridor. Nathan had walked these halls enough times to navigate them in his sleep. He turned the corner. And heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Sharp. Electronic. Frantic. An alarm. Not the steady beep of a heart monitor doing its job. The scream of a machine detecting something it shouldn't. Nathan started running. The alarm got louder. Then he heard something worse. A muffled, strangled sound coming from inside Dennis's room. The sound of someone fighting to breathe. Nathan didn't knock. He slammed the door open. And the world he thought he knew ended right there. Time didn't slow down. It shattered. Joyce stood over the hospital bed, her back rigid, shoulders locked in a position that wasn't quite right. Both hands gripped the clear oxygen mask, the one that was supposed to be delivering life to Dennis's struggling lungs. But she wasn't placing it on his face. She was holding it 6 inches above him. Just out of reach. Dennis's small body twisted against the white sheets. His chest hitched in these shallow, desperate gasps that barely moved air. His fingers, thin, fragile fingers that had held Nathan's hand through every doctor's appointment, every medication change, every scary moment, clawed at empty space. Reaching for the mask Joyce held just beyond his grasp. His eyes were open. Wide. Terrified. And the second the door burst open, those eyes locked onto Nathan's with a look that would live in Nathan's nightmares for the rest of his life. Not just fear. Recognition. Help me. Please. Dad. The heart monitor screamed. Sharp, rapid beeps that meant Dennis's body was in crisis. That his oxygen levels were dropping. That every second mattered. Joyce froze. For half a breath, nobody moved. Then she dropped the mask like it had burned her fingers. It clattered against the bed rail. "Oh my God," Joyce gasped, spinning around. Her face shifted, shock, then panic, then something practiced. "Nathan, this isn't what it looks like." Nathan crossed the room in 3 strides. He didn't speak. Didn't ask questions. Didn't give her a chance to explain. He grabbed the oxygen mask and slammed it back over Dennis's face with shaking hands. The seal caught. Oxygen hissed. The clear plastic fogged with Dennis's breath, weak, but there. The monitor slowed. Just barely. Still too fast, still dangerous, but moving in the right direction. Dennis sobbed. No sound came out, his throat too raw, his lungs too starved, but his whole body shook with it. Nathan pressed the mask against his son's face with one hand and hit the nurse call button with the other. He pressed it over and over, 5, 6, 7 times, until someone had to respond. His hands were trembling so hard he almost couldn't hold the mask steady. "It's okay," Nathan whispered. "I've got you. I'm here. I've got you." Dennis's fingers wrapped around Nathan's wrist and held on like he was drowning. Behind them, Joyce was still talking. "He was pulling at the mask. He does that when he's agitated. I was trying to calm him down, I was trying to." Nathan didn't turn around. He kept his eyes on Dennis. On his son's face. On the terror that was slowly, slowly draining out of those 12-year-old eyes. "You have to believe me, Nathan, I would never." The door burst open. 2 nurses rushed in, followed by a doctor Nathan recognized from previous admissions. They took in the scene in one sweep, Nathan holding the mask, Dennis clinging to him, Joyce standing 3 feet away with her hands raised like she was the victim. "What happened?" the lead nurse demanded. Nathan's voice came out flat. Cold. Nothing like his own. She was suffocating him. Joyce made a sound like she'd been slapped. "That's not." "Get her out of here," Nathan said. The doctor moved to Dennis's other side, checking vitals, adjusting the oxygen flow. The numbers on the monitor were climbing. Still critical, but climbing. "Sir, I need you to tell me exactly what you saw," the doctor said quietly. Nathan kept his hand on the mask. Kept his eyes on Dennis. "I walked in." She was holding the mask away from his face. He was struggling. The alarm was going off. She was suffocating him. "That's a lie." Joyce's voice cracked. "Hi. Desperate. He's confused, he just walked in, he doesn't understand what he saw." "Ma'am, I need you to step outside," one of the nurses said. "I'm his mother." "Ma'am. I have every right to be here. This is a misunderstanding." Nathan finally turned around. He looked at Joyce like she was a stranger who'd wandered into his life wearing a costume. Like he'd never seen her before in his life. And maybe he hadn't. Maybe the woman he'd married never existed. "Get her out of this room," Nathan said. "Now." The nurse reached for Joyce's arm. Joyce jerked away. "Don't touch me." "Nathan, tell them. If you're in this room 10 seconds from now," Nathan said, "I will have security remove you in handcuffs. Choose." Something in his voice must have landed, because Joyce's face changed. The performance dropped. Just for a second. What replaced it was something cold. Something that looked at Dennis, still gasping, still shaking, with nothing close to love. Then the mask came back up. "This isn't over," Joyce said. She walked out. The door closed. The room exhaled. Nathan's legs gave out. He sank into the chair beside the bed, hands still pressed against the mask, and tried to remember how to breathe. The doctor worked quickly, checking Dennis's vitals, adjusting medication, speaking in low tones to the nurse. The monitor steadied. The numbers climbed into safer territory. Not safe. But safer. After 5 minutes, maybe 10, time had stopped meaning anything, the doctor stepped back. "He's stable," she said quietly. "But we need to keep him monitored closely." Nathan nodded. He didn't trust his voice. The doctor glanced toward the door. "I'm required to file a report about what you described. Do you understand what that means?" "Yes." "Are you certain about what you saw?" Nathan looked at Dennis. His son's eyes were closed now, exhausted, but his grip on Nathan's wrist hadn't loosened. "Yes," Nathan said. "I'm certain." The doctor nodded. "Security will want to speak with you. So will administration. And likely the police." "Good." The medical team filtered out, leaving one nurse to monitor the equipment. She worked quietly in the corner, giving Nathan space. Nathan sat there, holding the mask in place even though it didn't need holding anymore, watching his son breathe. In. Out. In. Out. Each breath a small miracle he'd almost lost forever. And the worst part, the part that was already eating Nathan alive from the inside, was that this wasn't the first time. If Joyce had been caught today, then how many other times had she not been caught? How many other moments had Dennis endured alone? How long had Nathan's son been drowning while Nathan was busy signing deals and building empires and trusting the wrong person? Dennis's eyes opened. Just barely. Tired. Scared. But alive. "Dad?" His voice came out scratchy through the mask. "I'm here," Nathan said. "I'm not going anywhere." Dennis's eyes filled with tears. And then he said the words that destroyed what was left of Nathan's world. "She does that, when you're gone." Nathan couldn't move. He sat frozen in the chair beside Dennis's bed, hands still gripping his son's, trying to process 4 words that didn't fit into any reality he recognized. "She does that, when you're gone." "What?" Nathan's voice came out hoarse. Dennis's eyes dropped. Shame flooding his face like he'd done something wrong. "Dennis." Nathan leaned closer. "What do you mean she does that?" The boy's fingers tightened around Nathan's wrist. His breathing hitched, not from lack of oxygen this time. From something worse. "She gets mad when I need too much," Dennis whispered. "When the pain gets bad. When I can't stop crying. She says I'm difficult." Nathan felt something crack open in his chest. "How long?" he asked. The words scraped out. "How long has this been happening?" Dennis wouldn't look at him. "Dennis. Look at me." The boy's eyes lifted. Wet. Terrified. "How long?" A pause that lasted forever. "Since last year." Nathan's world tilted sideways. "Last year. 14 months. 63 business trips. Countless late meetings, board dinners, investor conferences. All those times he'd kissed Dennis goodbye and told him to be good for Joyce. All those times he'd called from hotel rooms and asked if everything was okay. All those times Dennis had smiled through FaceTime and said he was fine. While Joyce. Nathan couldn't finish the thought. His chest collapsed inward like something structural had given way. "Why didn't you tell me?" Nathan's voice broke. Dennis, why didn't you? I tried. Dennis's tears spilled over. I tried to show you. I left my medical chart out where you'd see it. I asked if you could stay home more. His voice cracked. I didn't know how to say it without sounding like I was lying. You wouldn't have been lying. But you love her. Dennis said it like a fact he'd accepted. You married her. You smile when she's around. I thought if I told you, you'd think I was just jealous. Or trying to break you guys up. Kids in foster care do that sometimes. They test new families. I didn't want you to think I was testing you. Nathan pulled Dennis into his arms, careful of the 4 lines, careful of the oxygen tube, and held him like he should have been holding him this whole time. You weren't testing me, Nathan said against his son's hair. You were surviving. And I'm sorry. God, Dennis, I'm so sorry. The boy sobbed into Nathan's shoulder. Not quiet, careful crying. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep you didn't know it existed until it breaks open. Nathan held him and tried not to fall apart. But he was falling apart. Every memory rewriting itself in real time. Joyce volunteering to handle Dennis's care, not because she loved him, but because it gave her access. Joyce insisting Nathan take business trips, not because she was supportive, but because she needed him gone. Joyce's perfect performance at hospital visits, not devotion, but cover. How had he missed this? How had he been so blind? The door opened. A woman in a security uniform stepped inside, followed by a man in a hospital administration badge. Mr. Howard, the man said. I'm Martin Chen, hospital administrator. We need to ask you some questions about what happened. Nathan didn't let go of Dennis. Can this wait? I'm afraid not. We've detained your wife in a secure room on the 2nd floor. She's demanding to speak with you and threatening legal action against the hospital. We need your account of events before we proceed. Nathan looked at Dennis. His son's face was buried in Nathan's shirt, shoulders still shaking. He needs me right now. I understand. But your wife is claiming you misinterpreted what you saw. That your son has been pulling at his oxygen equipment and she was simply trying to. She's lying, Dennis said. Everyone stopped. The boy lifted his head from Nathan's shoulder and looked at the administrator with red, swollen eyes. She's lying, Dennis repeated, voice stronger now. She does it on purpose. When Dad's not here. She waits until the nurses leave and then his voice caught. She says if I tell anyone, you'll send me back. That I'm too much trouble. That nobody wants a sick kid. The security officer's face hardened. Martin Chen pulled out his phone. I'm calling our legal team. And the police. Good, Nathan said. Mr. Howard, I need to advise you that what you're alleging is very serious. If there's any doubt about. There's no doubt. Nathan's voice was steel. I know what I saw. And apparently, it's been happening for over a year while I was busy trusting her. Chen nodded slowly. We'll need to review security footage. Nathan's head snapped up. You have cameras in the rooms? Hallway cameras. They might show when staff entered and exited, frequency of checks, anything unusual. Get the footage, Nathan said. All of it. Every day Dennis has been admitted in the past year. That's dozens of days. I don't care. Get all of it. Chen left. The security officer stayed, positioning herself by the door. Nathan turned back to Dennis. I need you to listen to me, Nathan said quietly. What Joyce did, none of that is your fault. You understand me? Not 1 second of it. Dennis shook his head. But I should have told you sooner. You were 12 years old being terrorized by an adult. You did nothing wrong. She did. And I did, for not seeing it. You didn't know. I should have known. Nathan's throat tightened. That's my job. To know. To protect you. And I failed. Dad. No. Let me say this. Nathan cupped his son's face. I'm your father. That means when someone hurts you, it's my fault for not being there. It means when you're scared, I should have made you feel safe enough to tell me. It means I should have looked closer. Asked better questions. Stayed home more. His voice broke. It means I should have chosen you first. Every time. And I didn't. Dennis was crying again. You're here now. I am. And I'm never leaving you with her again. Never. The door opened. Chen returned with a laptop. We pulled the last 6 months of hallway footage, he said. The timestamps from Dennis's admissions. You should see this. Nathan didn't want to leave Dennis's side, but the boy nodded. It's okay, Dennis whispered. I want you to see. Nathan stood. Crossed to where Chen had set up the laptop on the counter. The screen showed a grainy hallway view. Date stamp, 3 months ago. This is from Dennis's admission in July, Chen explained. Pain crisis, 3-day stay. Nathan watched. Joyce entering the room. Time stamp, 2:14 a.m. Nurse leaving. Time stamp, 2:16 a.m. Joyce staying inside. No alarms. No medical staff returning. 43 minutes passed on the footage. Then the alarm went off. Nurses rushing in. Joyce emerging, looking distressed, saying something to the staff. Medical team working quickly. Joyce standing back, hand to her mouth, looking every bit like a concerned mother. What were the vitals that night? Nathan asked. Chen pulled up a separate file. Dennis suffered a sudden oxygen desaturation event. Recovered quickly once staff intervened. No clear cause identified. Attributed to disease progression. Nathan felt sick. Show me another night. Chen pulled up August. Same pattern. September. Same pattern. October, 2 weeks ago. Same pattern. Joyce alone in the room. Nurse absent. Extended time. Sudden alarm. Quick recovery once staff arrived. Always just bad enough to trigger intervention. Never bad enough to trigger an investigation. Always with a plausible explanation. She's been doing this for months, Nathan said. It appears so, Chen said quietly. We're required to report this to the police. Child Protective Services will also be involved. Do whatever you need to do. Mr. Howard, your wife is still demanding to see you. Nathan's jaw tightened. Where is she? Conference room B, 2nd floor. She has an attorney on the phone. Good. I want my attorney there too. And I want everything, every piece of footage, every medical record, every nurse's note, preserved. She's going to try to explain this away. She's going to claim misunderstanding, stress, anything she can think of. Don't let her. Chen nodded. We won't. Nathan returned to Dennis's bedside. His son was watching him with those careful, measuring eyes. You have to talk to her? Dennis asked. Yes. But not because I believe her. Because I want her to know I don't. Dennis nodded. Will she go to jail? I don't know. But she'll never touch you again. I promise you that. Nathan squeezed his son's hand one more time, then headed for the door. Time to face the stranger who'd been living in his house. How many warning signs do we miss when we trust someone completely? Think about the people in your life, the ones you'd never question. What would it take for you to see the truth? Share your experience below. Sometimes the hardest truth is the one we've been looking at all along. The conference room on the 2nd floor was smaller than Nathan expected. Beige walls. Fluorescent lights. A rectangular table with 8 chairs. Joyce sat at the far end, back straight, hands folded on the table like she was attending a board meeting. She'd fixed her hair. That's what Nathan noticed first. In the chaos, in the aftermath of nearly killing their son, she'd found time to fix her hair. 2 security officers stood by the door. Martin Chen sat to Joyce's left with his laptop open. A woman Nathan didn't recognize, hospital legal counsel, probably, sat to the right. Nathan remained standing. Joyce's eyes locked onto his. Red-rimmed, but dry now. She'd stopped crying. Or maybe she'd never really started. Nathan. Her voice was soft. Wounded. Thank God. Please tell them this is a misunderstanding. Nathan said nothing. I was trying to help him, Joyce continued. Dennis gets agitated during pain episodes. He pulls at his equipment. The nurses know this, ask them. I was repositioning the mask because he'd displaced it, and you walked in at exactly the wrong moment. Still, Nathan said nothing. Joyce's expression flickered. Confusion, then irritation, then back to wounded. You're my husband. You know me. You know I would never hurt Dennis. Tell them. Nathan pulled out the chair across from her and sat down slowly. Show her the footage, he said to Chen. Joyce's face went pale. What footage? Chen turned his laptop so the screen faced her. Hallway security cameras. From Dennis's admissions over the past 6 months. He hit play. July. Joyce entering the room at 2:14 a.m. Staying 43 minutes. Alarm at 2:57 a.m. Joyce watched, face unreadable. August. Same pattern. September. Same pattern. October. Same pattern. That doesn't prove anything, Joyce said when the compilation ended. I was monitoring him. That's what mothers do. Mothers don't monitor children alone in hospital rooms for 45 minutes in the middle of the night while alarms go off, Chen said. He was having a difficult night. Then why didn't you call the nurses? Nathan asked quietly. Joyce turned to him. I did. Eventually. Once I realized I couldn't handle it alone. You called them after the alarms went off. Not before. Not when he first started struggling. I thought I could calm him. You thought you could hurt him without getting caught, Nathan said. But tonight you ran out of time. I came back too early. And for once, Dennis wasn't alone. Joyce's expression hardened. Just for a second. Just long enough for Nathan to see what had been hiding underneath all along. This is what he does, Joyce said, voice sharp now. He manipulates. He makes people feel sorry for him. It's a foster kid survival skill. Don't. Nathan's voice cut like glass. Don't you dare blame him. I'm not blaming him, I'm explaining. You were suffocating him. I was repositioning. You were holding the mask 6 inches above his face while he clawed at the air. That's not. I saw it, Joyce. Nathan leaned forward. I was standing 3 feet away. I saw your hands. I saw his face. I know what you were doing. Joyce's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. You don't understand the pressure, she said finally. The constant hospital visits. The medications. The middle of the night crises. I gave up my life for him. No one asked you to. You did. Joyce's voice cracked. You brought him into our lives. You made him the center of everything. Every decision, every plan, every conversation, it all revolved around Dennis. What about me? What about what I wanted? Nathan stared at her. What did you want? He asked. Joyce's eyes filled with tears. I wanted a husband. A family. A life. Not a permanent medical crisis. Not a child who takes everything and gives nothing back. He's 12. He's a burden. The room went silent. Even Joyce seemed to realize she'd gone too far. She blinked, and the mask tried to slide back into place. "I didn't mean that," she said quickly. "I'm upset, I'm not thinking clearly." "You meant it," Nathan said. "You've probably meant it since the day I brought him home. You just hit it better." Joyce's jaw tightened. "So what now? You throw away 3 years of marriage because of one bad moment?" "One bad moment?" Nathan's voice was deadly quiet. "Joyce, you've been doing this for over a year. Maybe longer. How many times? How many times did you hurt him while I was gone?" "I never hurt him." "How many times did he lie there terrified, waiting for you to stop? How many times did he think about telling me and then stay quiet because you convinced him I wouldn't believe him?" Joyce said nothing. "Answer me." "I don't have to answer anything without my lawyer present." "Then get your lawyer." Nathan stood. "Because you're going to need one." He turned to Chen. "Do you have everything you need?" Chen nodded. "The police are on their way. We've documented everything." Nathan looked at Joyce one last time. She was crying again now. Full performance. Shoulders shaking, hands covering her face. "Nathan, please," she sobbed. "Don't do this. We can work through this. Couples therapy, family counseling, whatever you want. Just don't." "You don't get to cry," Nathan said. "You don't get to play victim. And you sure as hell don't get to be near my son ever again." He walked to the door. Behind him, Joyce's sobs turned to screaming. "You're going to regret this. You're throwing away everything, our marriage, our life, for a kid who's not even yours." Nathan stopped. Turned around slowly. "He's more mine than you ever were," he said. Then he walked out. The security officers moved to block Joyce from following. Her screaming echoed down the hallway, but Nathan didn't look back. He took the stairs 2 at a time back to the pediatric wing. Back to Dennis. Back to the only family that mattered. The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 detectives, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a younger man who looked like he'd seen this kind of case before and hated it every time. They interviewed Nathan first. Asked him to describe exactly what he'd witnessed. Every detail. Every second. Nathan told them. Then they went to Dennis. Nathan started to follow, but the female detective stopped him. "We need to speak with him alone," she said gently. "It's protocol. Kids sometimes say what their parents want to hear when they're in the room." Nathan's stomach twisted. "He's been through enough today." "I know. But we need his account. Untainted. You understand?" Nathan looked through the window at Dennis. His son was sitting up in bed now, oxygen tube in his nose, looking small and scared. "Don't push him," Nathan said. "We won't." They were in there for 15 minutes. When they emerged, the female detective's face was stone. "We're arresting your wife," she said simply. "Child endangerment. Attempted harm. Possibly more depending on what the medical investigation turns up." Nathan nodded. He couldn't speak. "Your son is very brave," she added quietly. "He gave us dates. Specific incidents. Details that matched the hospital footage. This wasn't a one-time thing, Mr. Howard. You know that, right?" "I know. And you had no idea?" The question hit like an accusation. "No," Nathan said. "I didn't." "How is that possible?" Nathan met her eyes. "Because I trusted her. Because I thought love was enough. Because I was building a company instead of watching my family. Take your pick." The detective's expression softened. You're here now. Too late. Your son doesn't think so. Nathan looked through the window again. Dennis was watching him, waiting. Can I go back in? Yes. We have what we need. Joyce will be transported to the station within the hour. A judge will decide on bail tomorrow. Until then, she's not allowed within 500 feet of this hospital or your son. Nathan exhaled. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Cases like this, they get ugly. She'll fight. Her lawyers will spin it. You need to be ready. I'm ready. The detective nodded and walked away. Nathan returned to Dennis's room. His son looked at him with eyes that were trying so hard to be brave. Did I say the right things? Dennis asked. Nathan pulled him close. You told the truth. That's all you needed to do. Is she going to jail? I don't know. But she's never coming near you again. I promise. Dennis was quiet for a long moment. Then, Dad? Yeah. I'm scared she'll come back. Nathan tightened his arms around his son. Then I'll be scared with you, he said. And we'll get through it together. Outside, through the hospital window, Boston was getting dark. Somewhere in this building, Joyce was being read her rights. Somewhere in the city, lawyers were being called. Somewhere, the story was already starting to leak. But in this room, for this moment, Nathan held his son and chose to believe that being present was enough. Even if it was 14 months too late. Dennis was moved that night. Not to a different hospital, to a different floor, a different wing, under a name that wasn't Howard. Standard protocol in cases involving family perpetrators, the hospital administrator explained. We can't risk her finding him if she makes bail. Nathan approved everything without question. Private security stationed outside the door. Rotating shifts. Trusted medical staff only, people who'd been briefed, who understood the situation, who wouldn't let their guard down. For the first time since his diagnosis, Dennis slept through the night. Nathan didn't. He sat in the chair beside the bed, watching his son breathe, listening to the steady rhythm of the heart monitor. Every shadow in the hallway made him tense. Every footstep made him look up. Trust, once shattered, doesn't rebuild itself on command. Around 3 a.m, a nurse came in to check vitals. She was older, kind-faced, moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. You should rest, she said softly to Nathan. He's stable. We're watching him. I'm good. Mr. Howard. I'm staying. She didn't argue. Just finished her checks and left. Nathan returned his gaze to Dennis. I should have seen it. The thought looped endlessly. Every business trip rewinding in his memory. Every time he'd called from a hotel room and Dennis had said everything was fine. Every smile that hadn't quite reached his son's eyes. The signs were there. Nathan just hadn't been looking. Around dawn, Dennis stirred. His eyes opened slowly, confused for a moment about where he was. Then he saw Nathan. You stayed, Dennis whispered. Told you I would. All night. All night. Something shifted in Dennis's expression. Relief, maybe. Or the beginning of belief. Dad? Yeah. Can you teach me the monitors? What the numbers mean? Nathan blinked. Why? So I know when something's wrong. So I can help. Nathan's throat tightened. His 12-year-old son wanted to learn how to monitor his own medical crisis because he'd spent a year not being able to trust the adults around him. Yeah, Nathan said quietly. I'll teach you. They spent the morning going over every number, every alarm, every warning sign. Dennis asked questions. Nathan answered them. And somewhere in that exchange, something started to heal. Not completely. Not even close. But it was a start. By afternoon, Joyce's lawyers had already started working. Nathan's phone buzzed with messages from his attorney. She's claiming mental health crisis. Postpartum-like syndrome from adoption stress. Her team is building a sympathy defense. Nathan texted back, I don't care what they build. Keep her away from him. Working on restraining order. Judge hearing set for tomorrow. Nathan put his phone away. Dennis was drawing, something the art therapist had brought by earlier. His sketch pad was open on the bed tray, pencil moving in careful strokes. What are you drawing? Nathan asked. Dennis held it up. It was their house. The old one in Lexington. But in the drawing, only 2 windows were lit. Dennis's room and Nathan's office. Joyce's side of the house was dark. It's how I saw it, Dennis said quietly. When she was pretending. I knew which lights meant you were home. Which ones meant I was safe. Nathan stared at the drawing. At the loneliness captured in graphite and paper. At the truth his son had been living while Nathan thought everything was fine. We're not going back to that house, Nathan said. Dennis looked up. Where will we go? Somewhere new. Somewhere that's just ours. Somewhere she's never been. Really? Really? You and me. We'll pick it out together. For the first time since Nathan had burst through that door, Dennis smiled. Small. Cautious. But real. The next morning, Nathan's attorney called. Joyce made bail, he said. But the restraining order is in effect. 500 feet minimum. Judge was very clear. How much was bail? 200,000. Who posted it? Her family. They're rallying around her. Claiming you're being manipulated by a troubled child with attachment issues. Nathan's jaw clenched. Of course they are. Nathan, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Her legal team is already planting stories. Loving mother falsely accused. Billionaire husband chose adopted son over wife. They're going to make you the villain. Let them. The business. I don't care about the business right now. Your board is going to care. Your investors are going to care. This is going to be public and ugly. Nathan looked at Dennis, still sleeping peacefully under the new security protocols. Then it's ugly, Nathan said. I'm not leaving him again. His attorney sighed. Okay. We'll handle it. But Nathan? Yeah. Document everything. Every interaction, every threat, every attempt she makes to contact him. We're building a case, but we need evidence. You'll have it. Nathan hung up. Outside the window, the city was waking up. People heading to work. Normal lives. Normal problems. Nathan envied them. But he also didn't. Because somewhere in the past 48 hours, his priorities had been violently rearranged. And for the first time in 3 years, they were finally in the right order. Dennis woke around noon. Dad? Right here. Is she gone? She can't come near you. The judge made sure of that. Dennis nodded slowly. But she's still out there. Yeah. She is. I'm scared. Nathan moved to the bed and took his son's hand. Then I'll be scared with you, he said. And we'll figure it out. Together. One day at a time. Dennis squeezed his hand. And held on. 3 weeks passed before Dennis was stable enough for discharge. 3 weeks of Joyce's lawyers filing motions, demanding supervised visitation. 3 weeks of Nathan saying no. The hospital arranged art therapy twice a week. Dr. Sarah Chen, young, patient, would sit with Dennis and let him draw while they talked. On the 4th session, Dr. Chen asked Nathan to join them. Dennis has something he'd like to share, she said. Dennis sat cross-legged on the hospital bed, sketch pad in his lap. I drew something, Dennis said quietly. About before. He held up the pad. A hospital room drawn from a child's perspective. A small figure in the bed. And standing over him, a shadow with hands reaching down. No face on the shadow. Just hands. This is what it felt like, Dennis whispered. Every time you left. Nathan's chest constricted. It didn't start with the oxygen mask, Dennis said. Nathan went still. It started smaller. She'd be late with my medication. Then she'd forget completely and say I hadn't reminded her. Dennis's voice was soft, factual. Then she started saying things. What kind of things? That I was hard to love. That Dad only kept me because he felt guilty. That if I was too much trouble, you'd realize adoption was a mistake. Nathan's hands clenched. She said foster kids get sent back all the time. That families get tired of dealing with sick kids. Dennis. I believed her. Dennis's eyes lifted, wet and honest. I thought if I complained, if I told you I was hurting, you'd send me back. So I just tried to be good. Dr. Chen spoke gently. Can you tell your dad what happened when things got worse? Dennis nodded slowly. The first time she held the mask away, I thought it was an accident. She was mad because I'd called the nurse without asking. His voice dropped. She held it up high for maybe 10 seconds. Just long enough that I got scared. Then she put it back and said, see? You're fine. Stop being dramatic. Nathan couldn't breathe. After that, she did it whenever she was angry. She'd wait until the nurses were gone. Count to 20. Sometimes 30. Watch me panic. How many times? Nathan's voice was barely audible. Dennis looked down. I don't know. Maybe 20. After a while I stopped counting. 20 times. I wanted to tell you. Dennis's tears fell freely now. Every time you came home, I'd plan what to say. But then you'd be so happy, and his voice broke. I couldn't be the reason you stopped smiling. Nathan moved to the bed and pulled Dennis into his arms. You are not responsible for my happiness, he said fiercely. You're my son. My job is to make you feel safe. Dennis sobbed against his chest, deep, wrenching sounds trapped inside for over a year. I thought if I could just handle it, you'd think I was worth keeping. There is nothing you could do that would make me stop wanting you. Nothing. But I'm sick all the time. I need so much. I don't care. Nathan's voice cracked. You're not a burden. You're my son. And I failed you by not seeing. That's on me. Dennis clung to him. You're doing it now. Finally, Dennis pulled back. The day you came back, I thought I was going to die. His voice was steady now. When the nurses left, she told me she was tired of pretending. That she was done. And then she just held the mask away and stared at me. How long? Long enough that everything started going dark. Long enough that I stopped fighting. Dennis met Nathan's eyes. I heard the alarm. But I was already gone. And then I heard the door open. And I saw you. Nathan was shaking. I thought you were a dream, Dennis whispered. But then you grabbed the mask. And you were real. Stop apologizing for surviving, Nathan said roughly. You kept yourself alive until I finally showed up. That's strength. Nathan cupped his son's face. I swear to you, no one will ever make you feel that afraid again. Not while I'm breathing. Dennis nodded. Believed him. Maybe for the first time. And some of the tension left his son's small shoulders. Not all of it. But enough to start healing.